What's up, everyone? Mitch Sadowsky, Coastal Performance, coming to you today, and we are going to talk about squatting. Squatting is one of my favorite things to do, pretty much other than kettlebell swings. But we also understand that not everybody loves to squat. Why not? Because sometimes people say, squatting hurts my fill in the blank. Sometimes it hurts their knees, sometimes it hurts their hips, sometimes it hurts their back, sometimes it just hurts. So we're going to do some work today to help open up your squats so that you love them as much as I do. So first thing I'm going to do is just to kind of give you a baseline of where I am squatting right now. I've been sitting around a little bit. So when I drop down, I'm going to get back to about right here. Okay, so that's my starting position. Again, go to where you are. It's just going to be a little bit of a pre-test. Sometimes some people are going to start about right here. That's cool. We're going to get you a little bit lower than that. So first thing, we're going to work a little bit on the ankles. Sometimes there's some ankle mobility issues. If there are, make sure you get those checked out. Today we're going to mostly focus on the hips, getting the hips moving a little bit better, gives a little bit more room to squat. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the ground in a pigeon stretch. So pigeon stretch, I'm going to ease myself down into here. I'm going to try to keep my shin in line with my hips. If we can get that knee down, even better. Mine does not go that far yet, so I've got some work to do. And I'm just going to sit back into the hip, but I'm not going to roll. I'm going to actually try to take this hip down towards my heel and drive that hip back and down. Take some nice big deep breaths. On the exhale, I want you to think about relaxing tension, sitting back deeper into that hip. And we're going to switch sides. So I'm going to get back into this position, same thing. If there's a little bit of asymmetry in this, that's fine. We just know which hip we need to work a little bit more on. So again, I'm going to roll that hip forward, try to sit back into that hip without collapsing into it. As I'm doing this, I'm actually going to press and use some tension. So now I'm going to take this leg and I'm going to try to drive it towards the wall behind me. And I'm going to try to drive this hip out the back. Big deep breaths. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do, sometimes short hip flexors are what's preventing you from getting into a deep hinge position. So I'm going to get back to a wall. You can use a couch for this as well, commonly known as the couch stretch. I like a deeper stretch into my hip, so I'm going to back into the wall. I'm going to feel a nice big stretch up that side. I'm just going to kind of hang out here for a minute or so. Really focus on squeezing the glute. If you can't squeeze the glute, if you feel all that tension in your quad, just kind of hang out here for a little bit. You can also lean forward to take some tension off that and really just try to find that glute. You can try to squeeze, and as you squeeze, you'll start to feel the glute. Mine's starting to get a little tight right now, which is what I want. And what that does is glute activation. Sounds pretty familiar for golfers. We want the glutes to extend the hips. We don't want the lower back to extend the hips. So by squeezing the glute, I'm activating that to extend the hip more. Switch sides. So I'm going to bring my hands down. Same thing, back up to the wall. And come up into that position. Big deep breaths. I'm going to start to squeeze. Sometimes if you want to make sure, you can take a fist and start to hit that glute. Is it soft? Is it rock hard? Does it feel like a stale marshmallow? We don't want stale marshmallows in this gym. So I'm going to start to add a little bit more tension. Big deep breaths. That's better. All right, so now I'm going to come down into a quadruped car. So we're going to use a hip car, which is a fancy way to say a circle. It stands for controlled articular rotation. We do these standing. We're going to do we do them on all fours today. I'm just going to do them on all fours. So I'm going to get down into this quadruped position. I'm going to bring my knee forward, out to the side, circle around, and I'm going to reverse. And I'm going to make sure that my lower back doesn't move while I'm doing this. I'm just getting hip rotation. I'll switch sides here. I'm going to reset my lower back. Knee comes around. If you want to make these a little tougher, you can put a tennis ball in the back of the knee right into here, and you can squeeze that tennis ball. To give a little bit more tension into that hip. So after my cars, I'm going to go into a quadruped rock back. So I'm going to take one leg out to the side. I'm going to push both hands into the floor. From here, I'm going to brace my abs. So I'm going to pull my belly button in tight, and I'm going to push my hips all the way back into my heels. And rock back and forth. Instead of bouncing, I'm going to actually use the ground to help brace and groove the pattern of pulling and pushing myself back down into the hole of the squat. Go the other side. And one more. You can do these from a quadruped here. I just find that, me personally, my hips tend to get a little bit tighter in that position. I think a lot of people with short, tight hip flexors do the same. So I try to stay out of that bilateral until we're actually squatting. So the next thing I'm going to do is a prone hip car. So I'm going to go down onto the floor. I'm going to bring my knee up. I'm going to lift. And when I lift, I don't want to roll. I just want to lift, keeping my hip bone on the floor. And I'm going to turn out, and then relax and come back. Lift, rotate out, drive the knee up, and then back. We'll go one more. And we'll switch sides. Lift, rotate out, try to bring the knee as far up towards the armpit as you can. Last one. Good. So, last thing on the ground we're going to do, seated, is a 90-90 position. 90 degree in the leg, 90 degree in the hip, 90 degree in the back knee. All I'm going to do is take this knee, rotate it up, drop back down to the floor. I want to be active. I don't want to collapse it down. I'm going to stay active on the way up. Slowly come back through. I'm going to find a little bit more space at the top. Do about 5 of these. This is an ish counting drill. So it's 5-ish, maybe 10-ish. As soon as you start to find that you're not getting any more improvement, you can go ahead and switch. I'm going to go ahead and switch. So for me, I know my left hip gets a little stickier. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time at the top in here at that end range, pry that hip open. So I'm going to use internal tension. I'm going to squeeze my abs hard. Try to bring that hip up. I'm going to go one more. I'm starting to find that I'm not getting any more increase in range. That's pretty good. So next, I'm going to get into into an open half kneeling rocking position. So here's a tall kneeling, here's a half kneeling, here's a half kneeling open. So as we were talking about ankles before, there are two variations of this you can do. In fact, you can probably, for warming up for a squat, probably want to do these both. So the closer my foot is to the knee, the more I'm going to get ankle mobility. So I'm going to rock forward here. That's a little close for my long leg, so I'm going to go out a little bit further, and I'm going to rock forward. I'm going to make sure that knee tracks at least over my middle toe. And if you feel some tightness back here in your ankle, good. This is where we want to warm up. Feel tightness in the front, definitely go get that checked out, because you're going to want to have a medical professional probably adjust that or get you a little bit more mobility. So I'm going to rock through here. And you'll feel a stretch on the hamstring. You also feel a stretch on the adductor on this side. Then I'm going to take my foot out. So the farther away it goes, the more range of motion, the more I'm working on my hips. So I'm going to get it out a little bit. And then if we want to add load, I'm going to go to the other side. I'm just going to hang on to a kettlebell here. Keep my posture nice and tall. And I'm going to rock into that foot, move it out a little bit, get a little bit more hip in there. And again, just making sure that knee tracks out over the middle toe. And when we breathe, we'll inhale, exhale. Good. So next thing we're going to do is a prying squat. So we're going to do this two ways. We're going to go body weight prying, and then we're going to go goblet prying. So at the body weight prying, I'm going to find my squat position. I'm going to start just a little wider. Play around with this just to see where you're comfortable. For me, I do these a lot, so I'm pretty comfortable with my feet out a little bit wider than my hips, toes at a slight angle. And I'm just going to pull myself into a squat. I'm going to take my elbows and I'm going to drive my knees apart. And I'm just going to kind of rock back and forth. I want to find a little bit more space, so I'm going to move my feet here. And I'm going to start to go through here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to pull my knees off my elbows and hold that. And I'm going to slowly stand up, and I'm going to stand up carefully. I'm going to come back down. I'm going to do that one more time. Drop down, elbows in, pry apart. I'm going to move a little bit. When I find that one really sticky spot in my hip, I'm going to pry that open a little bit. And then I'm going to actively pull. So I'm going to use my strength, find space, spread the load, and come up. I'm starting to really find that opening in my hips. Now I'm going to try with a kettlebell. So that kettlebell, we always want to pick this up the same way. Hinge over, lock the arms, stand up. So for a deadlift into a high pull for a goblet squat, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to check my feet and I'm going to sit down into the hole and I'm going to pry. Now for this one, I'm going to try to focus on a taller, straighter spine and sit my hips down. You could probably wiggle around to the bottom. And now I'm going to squeeze and stand up. Okay, so now those hips are feeling mighty loose. And now we're going to groove that a little bit more. So I'm going to come to the wall. We're going to do a face the wall squat. This is a great squat because you're going to start to see where you compensate. So if I'm close to the wall, we don't want those knees jutting forward. We don't want my head to be the first. So what I want to do is I want to sit my hips down into the hole. So I'm going to start hands closer to the wall, inside my knees. And I'm going to come down and come back up. So that's pretty easy for me. So I'm going to come out. What we don't want is those knees or toes sort of plie. It's a good dancing word. Surprised I know that. So we're going to come closer to the wall. Nice, tall, straight spine. Hands inside. squat, and come back up. If you find that you get to a spot and you're kind of wiggling and falling backwards, that's fine. Just start a little bit from the wall. Find the bottom and stand up. Get a little closer, hands inside. Sit, squeeze, come down, come back up. We'll do that one more time. So as we start sitting down a little bit deeper, if you want, you can actually use a kettlebell for that. So we're going to find that same spot. I won't go to the wall for this. I'm just going to start the kettlebell here. Squat down, stand up, pick the bell up, squeeze at the top. So let's recheck my body weight squat from where we started. So I'm going to get my feet back out to about this position, toes slightly out. Pull myself down, and I'm already noticeably deeper from where I started. So that when we go into a workout, we can get into the bottom part, stand up, have a little bit more freedom to move. So cover the pigeon, stretch, hip extension on the wall or the couch stretch, quadruped cars, adductor rock backs, prone cars, 90-90 with that external rotation, half open rocking, prying goblet squats, face the wall squats. Give those a try. Happy squatting.